everyone, welcome to Immigration Talk Show. I'm your host Rajni Bharara, and before I move ahead, let me read out this very important disclaimer. By watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. All right, after this very important disclaimer, welcome back everyone to Immigration Talk Show. I'm Rajni Bharara, your host, and today we tackle a topic that is at the crossroads of opportunity and controversy. The H-1B visa program. Is it a catalyst of economic growth and innovation, or does it pose a threat to American jobs? Well, we are going to talk about that with our guest today, who is none other than attorney Erin Green. He's not just an immigration attorney, but also an H-1B visa expert. So we are glad to have Erin on our show again. So now, without any further ado, because I have a lot of questions that I would like to ask from Erin, so I would not like to waste any more time and directly, welcome him to the show. So, Erin, welcome to Immigration Talk Show once again.
Thank you. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure having you. And, I was so excited for you to come back so that we can talk about this topic, because this topic in particular, everybody is talking about it, and people are so much curious to know about what's been happening. And because every now and then, just yesterday, we got an update on uscis.gov about H-1B visa. And every now and then we are getting so much information about this particular visa. Before we talk about H-1B visa, or whether it is good for the economy or whether it is posing a threat to American jobs, I would actually like to know from you, like from the time President Trump has taken the office, a lot of people are always having a debate about whether it is good for the immigrants especially, or whether it is bad for the immigrants. And now that the deportation is going on, people are having so much to talk about. Some are in favor, some are against. Celebrities are crying and making a video and posting that on their social media. So I would like to know from you, with all that have happened, what do you think about it? Is it like, with whatever that is happening and whatever that Trump administration is doing, do you think it is benefiting the immigrants, or is it going against the immigrants?
I think what Trump's doing is benefiting legal immigrants, people who come here in categories like H-1B, L-1B, TNs, people who abide by the laws of the country, people who do not for a second want to have any kind of violation, even if it's an overstay of an I-94 or anything. So it's a good thing that when people break the law, that it's taken care of. I can't believe it's even a debate. Especially at this stage, they're removing criminals right now, and hardened criminals, some of the worst. I can't believe that's a debate. But as they remove all the criminals, yes, they need to look at, for example, those who have been given asylum hearings and don't show up, when they're called, which is probably 90 to 98% of people who are given asylum hearings just don't show up to their hearing years down the road. That shows you how much of a scam the asylum entry that's been going on for years, and especially the last 4 years, where it's been elevated to a degree that no one can believe. So yes, what's going on now is what Trump promised. Those who are criminals and here illegally are being removed from the country. It's going to take a long time. But yes, illegal immigration is bad for legal immigration. Right. H-1Bs wait years and years to do everything right. They so-called wait in line, quote. They wait in line, they pay fees, they make sure everything is right, they stress out, they do it the right way. We're the most generous country in the world. We offer the most legal green cards in the world by far. And especially when it comes to work visas and work green cards, we offer the most in the world by far. So there's a mechanism to get here. The fact that we cannot take on the entire world's poor people, even though we have a heart for poor people, but you can't just allow people to come in the country just because they're poor and tell them, just claim asylum and then you're in and you can get everything you want right away. That's not how the system should work. That's a broken system. And yes, it does affect those in the legal immigration community, like our H-1B workers.
Right, very well said. But then, Erin, I would also like to know from you, all these influential celebrities who have so much influence on people, and because people do look up to them. So, I mean, they are not directly involved with all these things, but when it comes to all these, controversies, they do share their opinions and viewpoints on what they think. So, why do you think these people are, if I can say, like crying for these people who are being deported and posting the videos and coming in favor of them, though they know that, that the path that they chose and how they came to the country was not the legal way. But then why do you think, this is also happening on the other side?
Um, the problem is that celebrities are ignorant and or stupid. Um, so that combination can be very influential when they have millions of followers or fans that like them just because they can sing a song or act in Hollywood or Bollywood. But here it's Hollywood. Or it's ridiculous. Those who follow these people are probably and believe in their opinions and what they say are probably the most ignorant people in our society, unfortunately, and not the brightest. And unfortunately, a country of 330 million will have a lot of folks who never read anything about immigration or any topic, but they get a little feed on their Twitter or Instagram or whatever they use, and some celebrity is posting that, and now they think they understand the topic. They don't. It's misinformation. It's terrible. These celebrities are the worst. If they could just do what they are paid to do or what they are famous for, which is either sports or acting or singing or whatever, then everything would be a lot better for the rest of us. But they have to now chime in on every social topic or legal topic that they know nothing about. It's unfortunate. For your listeners, I would not pay attention to any of them. None of them are experts. None of them know what they're talking about. And everyone has sympathy for poor people. I don't have to be a celebrity to say, I feel bad for poor people. I like them to come and have an opportunity, but you have to do it in a systematic legal way that's fair to everyone. Right. I've said for many years, if they could increase the H-1B program, this is a little bit off topic. The H-1B program is for non-degree workers. It's different than the H-1Bs where you have to require a degree, right? A 4-year degree or equivalent. H-2Bs are your farm workers, people who work in hotels. They come in seasonally, and it's great. They're usually people looking for a little bit of a better job, more money in their job, and this was established for that and to fill a need in the U.S. The problem with the H-2B program is that there's not a lot of them given out. I don't know the actual number, but again, like the H-1B, there's a cap and a lottery for that, and companies applies for those, and it's great. The people are vetted thoroughly. They come seasonally, they go back, they bring the money back to help their families in different countries, and then they can come back again. If we could expand that program, we could help a lot more of the world's poor. But by doing what they've been doing for the past 4 years, especially, and before, with this phony asylum claiming sham, scam, and just allowing people to come in willy-nilly from anywhere, it almost blows your mind. Right. That. And that's an educated opinion. I've been reading and lurking into this for years and years. Plus, I'm an immigration lawyer. But just by being an immigration lawyer doesn't mean anything. Because I know a lot of immigration lawyers, very well-respected immigration lawyers, who take the opposite approach, who think, no, all these people should be coming in and should have an asylum hearing. It makes no sense. These people don't qualify for asylum. They know it. And they're just trying to substitute some kind of logic in there to bring in masses of people. Some of these lawyers profit off them, obviously, and others are just ideologically backwards.
Right. So, but Erin, do you think, because if immigration attorneys themselves, if they, come in favor of these people and also celebrities, them being so influential and they have so much influence on people and people's mind, and also by the political parties, they are also called for campaign promotions, right? When they are going out for campaigns, these celebrities are also called. So, do you think if they make these statements, do you think it creates any kind of influence, or like the government also creates this, or also have decisions, or makes decision based on what these people are saying?
Not this government. No.
Okay.
Tradition. Traditionally, when you talk about these celebrities, they have been in our country. They've been 80 to 90, even higher, left wing, meaning Democrat, very liberal, left wing.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing a shift now as the country saw in the last election how it had been destroyed for the past 4 years, and how these folks are just preaching nonsense. We've seen a shift in a lot of voters to say, you know what, this is ridiculous. We've gone too far. These celebrities have lost most of their influence, in my opinion. And the fact that there's a rise of celebrities that are actually posing another opinion now without the threat of being canceled or, fired, which is what had happened. They use fear in their industry to hold a grip on one political position and opinion. And if you disagreed with them, well, you weren't going to get your next acting job or your next music job, etc. So now there's a big shift. If I'm an H-1B worker and I see these yo-yos screaming because we're enforcing the law, finally, I wouldn't pay any attention to them. And so that's my advice to anyone out there who's not American or who thinks these celebrities have some kind of influence. They don't, especially not on this administration that's just been elected overwhelmingly.
Yeah, glad, really glad, right?
Yeah, I can't imagine if the other side would have won, how this immigration mess would have continued and gotten worse. Who knows what would have happened, leading to the destruction of our laws and our country. Who knows? But now it's time for law and order to restore the destruction that has been done over the past 4 years. And they're doing it now. They're starting on day one and they're getting going and they're just starting.
Mm-hmm. But do you think this mess will be, all this mess that the government is or the administration is trying to clean or that they're trying to accomplish, do you think they will be able to do this in these 4 years?
In terms of stopping the ridiculous, everyone come in, we'll let you into the country, we'll even fly you in program, that's already been stopped. So it's like a drain with water. That's been shut off. Now, what has come in the last 4 years, we don't know. Is it 10 million? Is it 12 million? Is it 8 million? A lot of them came in, just over the border, and there's been no, they didn't have enough resources, and they didn't want to have enough resources to catch them. So the challenge will be how to remove a lot of the illegals that came in the past 4 years, and I don't know how long that will take. But they need to start somewhere. You start with criminals. You have a record of them. You know where they are. I think they'll move on to people who have not showed up for their asylum hearings, which is the whole reason why they were allowed here in the first place. Then they'll go after them, and but that's a whole different topic. That's not something I'm an expert in, but I certainly am very fluent in it, watching what's been going on the last 4 years in that arena and how our border we don't have a border. Mm-hmm. So now we need to build a border, and that's what we're trying to do.
Right. Okay. Now let's come back to our topic, H-1B. So I would also like to know from you, Erin, that how do H-1B actually impact American job markets? Because, some people are saying that it is posing threat to American jobs. So would you say that it is posing threat to American jobs? Or because we have, also heard conflicting reports about whether these visas create jobs or they reduce the job opportunities for American people?
I really think they create jobs. Look, if we had an abundance of American students who want to get computer engineering degrees and electrical engineering and mechanical engineering sometimes and all these other related degrees, STEM, if we had an abundance of that in the computer field alone, then you can make the argument that, the H-1B is not needed, and you would see companies would not utilize the H-1B like they do now. But because we have a shortage in school of American students not taking these particular majors, they simply don't want to do coding. They find it boring. We have a great need for foreign talent. H-1Bs fill the gap immensely, and we could use even more. You can see the numbers of H-1B applications in the lottery every year. Last year was over 700,000, I believe, if I'm correct. And that doesn't even include all the existing H-1Bs that are in the country who've already made the lottery, and they're all employed. None of them are unemployed, very few. So, and you can look at these big companies' web pages, you can see all their career openings, and there's just tons of openings in these positions everywhere. So I believe that it does not hurt the American worker at all. In fact, American workers who are in the field are at a prime. Companies do not need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on green cards and H-1Bs and extensions. If they have a talented American worker at the same level, they'll simply hire the American just by economics. So my answer is no. I don't think it hurts American workers at all right now.
Okay. All right. So also, guys, if you're enjoying this conversation and if you're getting information out of this conversation, make sure to subscribe to Immigration Talk Show and like the video, share with your friends and family who you think needs to hear this. So yes. And coming back to you, Erin, I would also like to know if you can give provide some examples of maybe some companies or sectors where you think, hiring H-1B workers has led to significant job creation.
So most H-1Bs, as you know, are computers and computer-related jobs. Now expanding into AI, which involves obviously computers, data engineering, software, anything from software to even project management, anything related to the STEM field of computers and computing. That's the biggest use of H-1B. It still is. You can see the LCA data statistics. So what exactly is the question? How do these H-1Bs contribute to growth in companies?
I was saying if you can provide some examples of some companies or maybe some sectors where you felt that, this hiring H-1B workers have created significant job creation for, US workers. Has led to
so the IT sector. So for example, if you don't have talented folks here and you need an abundance from overseas, well, what comes with that is very innovative people. Some of them will go on to start new companies. They'll start startups. They'll make new products. The H-1Bs who are working for existing IT companies, even if they're big companies, they can develop things within their H-1B role that will lead to new products, new platforms, new algorithms. These will turn into new services and products, which will need additional employees to support them. So there can be a lot of growth, not just from the H-1B worker, but from other workers. Let me give you an example. When I was the head of immigration at Infosys, I used to go to all the client sites, which were all mostly Fortune 500 companies. And I met with all the managers and we talked to all the employees and answered their immigration questions. They were all mostly H-1Bs and L-1s. And at the time in California, there was a big controversy over one of the clients removing their H-1B department and replacing it with Infosys, for example, and another contracting company, and basically taking over the whole IT function. So when I talked to some of the managers, I said, they're removing the IT department that's there, and they're bringing you guys in. So three things. Number one, in a lot of these situations where the IT department is removed, they offer the jobs to the folks that are already there. In a lot of these cases, I know they did at Harley Davidson. That was one that I worked on. The electric company in California. I'm not sure about that, but going further, the managers would tell me that when they come in and bring in a specialist like, an Infosys or another company similar to that, they save them a lot of money because what they're doing is very innovative. They save them money. And I'm not talking about just saving them salaries. They know how to do things better and faster, leading to a better product that saves them money. And in turn, by saving the money, the company can hire a lot of other employees in different fields. And those are majority, obviously, American employees. So it can be a win-win approach when a lot of H-1Bs come in and innovate. And that's what it leads to. Again, I mentioned entrepreneurship as some folks leave and start their own businesses or move. But yeah, I think it's a positive. I know fear mongers out there will say, yeah, but Americans are losing jobs. I don't know about that. There's so many jobs out there that if an American did lose a job, let's say because they replaced the IT department at that person's company, well, they could easily find another job. Also, some of those workers, let's face it, are not that great. Okay, so these companies have old IT departments. They're not doing very well. They come in and innovate. You can see right now, like with the government, what they're doing. They're going into all these government agencies and they're cleaning out the pork. People who either don't come to work, they're lazy, they're getting rid of them. They want efficiency. So a lot of that happens when you utilize either a big IT subcontractor, or just, you're hiring H-1Bs in general.
Right, right. Thank you so much again for answering the question, Erin. We have started receiving a lot of questions from the viewers, which we are going to take in a bit. But before that, I would like to come back to President Trump, and I would like to ask you that, very recently, he changed his stance on H-1B visa. Earlier, he said it's very, very, very bad, if you remember. And then later, he said, he came in favor of it, and he supported the H-1B visa. What do you think? I mean, why do you think that sudden change of stance happened, and what do you think actually influenced that?
Okay, first of all, he never said he was against H-1B visas. In fact, I can remember during his first 4 years in office, he was very supportive of them and made statements to that effect. So if we go back in the record, I guarantee you I can find you that. If he said anything negative about it, he changes his mind. When he gets educated on a topic, he's the type of person that seems to listen to people and can change his mind. So if he did say something where he doesn't support look, he runs the Trump organization. They use H-1Bs. They probably use a lot of H-2Bs as well. What I've seen is that he's very supportive of H-1Bs. He realizes the value in them, the need for that labor force, the professional labor force as it is. So I question those people who say he was very negative on it. And if you can send me some links of stuff he said, I could probably find you. I know I can, because I remember I can send you other links where he said the exact opposite. So I wouldn't put too much stock in something in the past. And also, if you want to look at the past history of the 4 years where he was president, H-1Bs did not decline in any way. And in fact, the wait times were much less. So we're hoping to get back to less wait times, which is frustrating our whole firm and probably every other lawyer out there. It's become crazy how long you have to wait. Yeah, you can pay premium, but premium is now close to $3,000, which is crazy. It's a big expense, especially for small companies. So I think things will only get better. I wouldn't put any stock in fear mongering, which is what people like to do when it comes to Trump, just because for some reason they don't like him, and then they start making up things.
Again, thank you so much for answering the question, Erin. Let me quickly.
And I don't know where that very, very bad shift comes from. I'd like to see that in writing, where it comes from, because I don't think that's what he said at all.
Okay, all right, but thank you so much again for answering the question, Erin. Maybe if I get it, so I'll also try to share that link with you if I get that, if I see that. But for now, let me quickly take the viewer's question. But you answered it very well. But again, I would like to take the viewers' questions, and because we have been getting many, so let me very quickly take Sahil's question for now. Sahil says, as an H-1B visa holder with several years of experience in the US, I have begun to question the program's impact. Do you think the H-1B program genuinely contributes to job creation and economic growth, or does it primarily create competition for American workers? And I think you already have answered this, but still, if you would like to take it and answer again.
I mean, in general, I think it's good. Again, I work with recruiters all day long, my clients. I work with HR departments, legal departments, recruiting departments. But when I get to talk to the recruiters and I can see what they're doing, it's just basic common sense. If you have an American worker and you have an H-1B worker and they're both applying for a role, which has a salary band, sometimes has a salary band, obviously they can go from here to here. But my point is, why would the employer want to hire an H-1B worker when you have an equally qualified American worker and take on thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and time and a little bit of unknown? Things can get denied, when they can just take the American worker is what I'm saying. So if anything, I don't think it hurts the American worker in dealing with recruiters all day and seeing how they recruit. And yes, in some cases, they're going to need the H-1B employee because there simply aren't enough Americans who have applied, or it's some kind of niche skill and this person has it and they just happen to need sponsorship. So no, I don't think the H-1Bs damage the American IT workers. I think American IT workers are some of the best off, most well-paid workers that we have.
Right. And you're not just an immigration attorney with that, you're also an H-1B visa expert, right? And if it genuinely hurts, you would know, right? More than anybody, I think you would at least know. So
typically what happens is there's a case. There's a case, someone complains because he's an American, he feels he's been wronged by his company, he files a lawsuit, and then the issue is, well, I was replaced simply by someone else because I'm American and I'm not, and that's why they replaced me. That's usually not the case. Those are far and few. I remember years ago when I was working there, when I was the head of immigration at Infosys, I remember we dealt with a lot of these cases when we were contracted to come in and perform a lot of work for some of these big companies. So there are cases here and there, but if you break it down, it's not a lot of people who are complaining. And in a lot of cases, that person simply was there for many, many years and was basically not contributing, not innovating, not doing a good job. We have at-will employment in the United States. You can fire anyone for any reason. That's how our laws work. So, but those tend to make the headlines. Something like that, it's juicy. There's an element of racism in it, maybe. So those make the headlines. News reporters love to pick that up and make a whole story, and then that gets out, and people think that's happening everywhere. It's not.
Okay, so Sahil, I hope you have got your answer. Thank you for your question. And guys, if you have any more questions related to this topic that you like to know answer of, so what you can do is you can also give us a call on the number 425-436-6335, and you can also put the access code, which is 988888. Yes, you can ask your questions by also calling us. You can give us a call and ask your questions by dialing the number 425-436-6335. And don't forget to put the access code. The access code is 988888. Yes, and make sure to subscribe to the channel and also like the video and share the video with anyone you feel should know and watch this episode. And for now, let me quickly take RK's question. And RK says, do you think the problem with us immigration is the employers? H-2A is uncapped, yet so many undocumented agriculture workers. Had the Bracero program employers abuse the workers? Okay, I think.
Is it talking about H-2B?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with H-2A. To be honest with you, our firm we don't handle H-2B. We don't handle H-2A. So I'm not really an expert on that. I don't know if I can give a comment on that. There are definitely a lot of undocumented agricultural workers here. Is there a need for them? Maybe. Do Americans, the old argument is, well, Americans don't want to do these jobs, so we need to bring them in from, South America and now from everywhere. I mean, if that's the argument, then you got to expand the H-2B program or the H-2A program, which I don't know much about. And if you do that, maybe you can bring a lot more people in legally and it would benefit everyone. That's a win-win. But Congress needs to do that. It's not something the president can do. H-2B numbers, like H-1B numbers, can only go up through an act of Congress. The president can't sign a presidential executive order and say, okay, we want more or less. This is set by Congress. That's why we have 80,000 right now.
Right. And, he goes on to say that layoff FYI show that between 2022 to 2024, 580K IT workers, 580,000 IT workers got laid off. Why does Congress not restrict level 1 and 2 H-1B workers when mass layoffs? Keep level 3 and 4. They create jobs for H-1B and USC. What do you have to say?
Well, Congress can do whatever it wants. If Congress comes together and passes a law that says you can only get H-1B if you're level 3 or level 4, that will become the law. So Congress can do that. The problem with Congress is they never will pass. They haven't, I don't know in how many years, they're never going to pass a comprehensive immigration bill, either because they don't want to, they like the status quo, both sides, or they just can't agree, obviously, both sides, or because these bills are filled with so many things that they get crazy. I remember, I think it was 2012 when the Gang of Eight, when they were going to pass. I did a lot of lobbying for my company in DC, and they were close to passing an immigration bill, but it didn't happen. And then if you do pass an immigration bill, you can make some changes. You can, like what he says, maybe let's get rid of level 1 and level 2 H-1B workers and just keep it at level 3 and level 4. Okay, you can do that. I don't know what effect that would have on the IT industry, because a lot of level 1 and level 2 workers are very vital. Some of them are students who finish their master's or their undergrad, and then they're working for a nice company, and they need that H-1B to continue. They only have 3 years on their OPT and their STEM OPT. So who knows what the impact on that would be. I think they should create more numbers personally. We have 80,000 now. I think they should get back to like maybe 200,000 a year would be a solid number. That's just my opinion. I think, judging by the cap numbers, we certainly need that, if not more. So those statistics don't lie, the number of applications.
Okay. So RK, I hope you have got your answer. In case you want to know more, continue posting your follow-ups, and you can also give us a call on the given number. And yes, but thank you so much again for answering the question, Erin. We still have a lot of other questions. Okay, Skywild Designs is here and says, hello, any news on H-2B program, since it feels like employers are not proceeding with out-of-country recruitments? What do you have to say, Erin?
Again, I don't deal with the H-2B program. I know about it. It can be very useful. It can employ a lot of good people who might not have an opportunity in their country or just want to come here and work and bring the money back to their family without necessarily moving the whole family here. It's a good program. They do a lot of jobs that we so-called may have a shortage in America on. For example, landscaping, hotel industry, agriculture, as you say, things like that. If Congress can look at expanding these programs, we could have a lot more opportunity for people who want to work, who maybe don't have the opportunity in their home country because it's a poor country or whatever.
Okay, looks like I have a slight technical problem, but I'm trying to resolve it. But meanwhile, let's go for a short break. So let's take a short break and come back quickly. And Welcome back, everyone, to Immigration Talk Show. I'm Rajni Bharara, and I'm so sorry about that technical glitch that happened before the break. But now we are all sorted. And welcome back, Erin. I'm so sorry about it. And
No
which we
problem.
had to take a short break, but now it's all good and we can continue the show. And Erin, I would again like to move to the viewers' question because we had so many. And so I hope Designs, you got your answer. Thank you so much for your question. And let me take Empire's question. Empire says, why do groups try to remove H4EAD? Why do they keep litigating in the courts to have it removed? As well, it was on the regulator agenda in the past by the Trump administration to remove it. Why? What do you have to say?
Well, in the past, L2s and H4s were not allowed to work for many years. When I started working as an immigration lawyer, there was no work option for an L2 or an H4. And then they changed that because they figured, the spouses come here for long periods of time and are very hamstrung and handcuffed. They can't do anything. So they changed it. And then L2s could work. And then for the H4s, as you know, they could work as well if the spouse if the H-1B had an approved I-140. So it's a little bit different than the L2. There's just groups now. Now, in that situation, you can make a stronger argument because an H-4 can work anywhere for anyone in any position. That could impact American workers. If you think about it, it could be any job. So there are a lot of groups out there, lobby groups and whatnot, who don't want the H-4s working. And they could make an argument that it does affect the American worker, as I said, because it can be in any industry at any level. So theoretically, you could just simply be taking a job, as opposed to my argument with the H-1Bs, where we have an industry that we really don't have enough people in our own country. So it's a little bit of a different argument, and that's why it's constantly being challenged by groups and in the courts.
Okay. Empire, I hope you have got your answer. If you have a follow-up, please continue posting your follow-up. Meanwhile, let me come back to my questions and let me ask, the question that I prepared for you, Erin. So, Erin, recently, the new H-1B visa reforms, starting January 17th, it was said that, these reforms are aimed to improve fairness. Right. So what do you think, what are the most significant changes that workers and employers should know about?
I think you're referring to reforms about the lottery program. A lot of what you mentioned, a lot of what's in that January 17th has to do with cleaning up the CAP registration program so there's less fraud. That was a big part of it. There was a little bit about CAP exempt employers. As you know, if you're an employer that's not a regular employer, let's say you're like a government institution or sometimes educational entities, sometimes nonprofits, they can get H-1Bs year round, so they're not subject to the cap. There was something about, making that a little bit friendlier. Otherwise, then something about how they define the specialty occupation itself, maybe when they're going to look at petitions. That could make adjudications a little bit easier for H-1B. Right now, I don't see much of a problem in the H-1B field. We file, I can't even tell you how many H-1Bs we do every day. But so we see responses, we see the levels of RFEs. We can get pretty good statistics even internally. And right now, H-1Bs do not seem to be issuing a lot of needless RFEs like they have in the past. I can remember about I think 5 years ago, we just saw, it comes in waves. So there's got to be some internal directives. We all of a sudden be quiet, and then every other H-1B was getting RFE'd with the same RFE. So no method to the madness. But right now, I think it's pretty good. We file H-1Bs. The wait times are a little bit annoying, but we're not seeing too many RFEs, what we call the boilerplate RFE, where you get a 10-page RFE, and then you can see they haven't even looked at it, and they just print it out and send it to you. In addition, I can see lately that with H-1Bs and some other categories, they're getting a little bit better with the RFEs. I think that's internally they've been instructed to do a little bit more on asking for very specific things. So maybe you'll get a shorter RFE, but it's looking for something very specific. We're seeing a lot of that trending lately. That's good because they can focus on something that actually is a legitimate issue, and you don't have to send them a response to 10 pages of nonsense when you've already provided everything there. So yeah, I hope that answered the question adequately.
Right. It does. It does. Thank you so much. And I would also like to know from you about, with India providing the majority number of H-1B visa holders, right? So, how do you think these recent policy changes are specifically going to impact Indian tech professionals?
Well, anything that's done in the H-1B program will impact any H-1Bs. It doesn't matter if they're an IT professional from India or a chef from China or an accountant from Brazil. It doesn't matter. Whatever they implement, it affects them across the board. So there's no specific cutout for, let's go target. They can't do that. They can target the H-1B program. They can make some changes, maybe some beneficial, maybe some negative changes. But yeah, so to answer your question, Indians specifically will not be hurt any more than anyone else who has an H-1B.
Okay.
Indians and Chinese do make up the vast majority of H-1B users. That is true. Sometimes they get a bad rap for it because when people are criticizing H-1Bs, in a sense, they could be criticizing Indians because Indians use the most, let's say. And it's just it's an unfair criticism. I work with Indians. As you know, I was the head of immigration for Infosys for over 5 years. I've been to India a lot. I live in an Indian community in Texas. 80% of my neighbors are Indian. This happens to be an Indian community. I can tell you the Indian population is the type of immigrants we want here. I can tell you the crime rate for Indians is almost zero. There might be a little bit here and there. Very good students, very good parents. They want their kids to get a good education. These are the role models for the types of immigrants and H-1B workers we want in the country. So maybe sometimes Indians get a bad rap because they're using the H-1B so much, but at the end of the day, these are the types of new Americans that you want here eventually.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much again for answering the question, Erin. Let me quickly take Empire's question again. Empire is back with this question. He says, if the 580K layoff is okay, I think we already have taken this. Maybe let's take Yuri's question. Yuri says, I'm on vacation in India and was laid off effective Feb 1st, 2025 with a half-month severance. I'm on H-1B exempt visa since June 2023 with stamping valid until June 2026. My return flight is on February 17th. What are my options for safe re-entry into the US?
Well, if you're no longer employed by the company on your H-1B visa, you should not enter with that visa unless you have a new H-1B approval for a new employer. And then you could use the visa plus the new H-1B to enter. But if not, technically, you shouldn't make an entry back into the US on that H-1B visa because you're not working for them. You're not on their payroll. You're separated from the company. So that technically would be illegal.
Okay. So Yuri, I hope you have got your answer. In case you have a follow-up, continue posting it in the comments below. And
if Yuri can enter on a B visa, he could come in and look for jobs while he's here. Obviously, he's not working. And then if somebody wanted to hire him, he could change status from B to H-1B while he's in the US. He could do that.
Okay, Yuri, I hope you have got your answer. And let me quickly take Amarjeet's question also. So he says, my wife is on H4 here in New Jersey and also have Canada open work permit. She's planning to visit Canada as a tourist. Is it allowed on open work permit or need to apply visitor visa? What do you have to say to Amarjeet?
To enter Canada? Okay, so I'm not a Canadian immigration lawyer. I have colleagues who do rest of the world. I do US only. But an H-4 can travel to Canada. I believe Indians have to get a visa to get to Canada. Oh, she said you have a Canada open work permit. So the H-4 could enter Canada legally. She's planning to visit as a tourist. Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with what Indians need to travel to Canada. If I recall correctly, they need a Canadian tourist visa to enter as an Indian, I think. So in that case, yeah, you can't use visas and be deceptive about your entry. So if you're coming in for one purpose and not to work as a tourist, you shouldn't be using your Canadian open work permit. Same thing goes for the US.
Okay. Okay. So Amarjeet, I hope you have got your answer.
I get the Canadian visa. Yes.
Okay, but guys, Erin is not just an immigration attorney, but also an H-1B visa expert. So if you want to get a detailed consultation with Erin, and if you have any case regarding H-1B, you can directly get in touch with him and contact him on his number 469-459-1771. I would like to repeat the number 469-459-1771. You can also email him. His email ID is erin@eeglawgroup.com. Yes, you can also email him and also visit his website, which is www.eeglawgroup.com. So make sure to get in touch with him for a detailed consultation regarding your H-1B cases or any immigration case that you are looking to looking for help or looking for a consultation. But for now, let me quickly take Rag's question also. Erin, Rag is here and he actually wants to know, okay, we have also we have people posting on Facebook groups questions related to H-1B, which we would like to take, but I think we will take them in a bit. But right now we have another viewer, Rag, and it's not related to H-1B, but he wants to have your guidance on L1A. So if you have anything for him.
L1A, in order to qualify for an L1A, you have to work for a company outside the US that's related to the future US employer. It can be a parent, subsidiary, they're affiliated companies owned by another company. There has to be a relationship. You have to work there for at least a year. And to qualify for the L1A, you have to be a manager or an executive. So if you're a manager abroad or an executive abroad and you're coming into the US to fulfill a manager or executive role, then that's the most straightforward way to do an L1A. You can also do a hybrid L1A where you're a specialized knowledge person abroad and you're coming in, or vice versa. But most L1As, they're a manager in their current job, they're coming to be a manager in the US, and they've worked outside for at least a year. And those are the best cases for the L1A visa. There's no cap on the L1A. The L2 spouse can work right away as soon as you enter. You don't even need an EAD card anymore. So the L1 is a good tool or mechanism for companies who need to move their workers to the US. And yes, if I'm an expert, if there's one thing I'm more of an expert on than H-1Bs, it's L1s. So those two are pretty much my bread and butter. I've been doing that for over 20, I don't know how many years, but yeah, solid visa. Your company will obviously have to sponsor you just like an H-1B. But if you want to reach out to me, a lot of our clients are companies. Most of our clients are companies, and they do a plethora of L1s or H-1Bs.
Great. So maybe Rag, you can directly get in touch with Erin. You have the details right on screen. You can note down his phone number, his email, and you can also visit his website.
Oh, one thing about L1s, I get people calling me a lot, and they're like, "Well, I don't have a company." We're a law firm, so if you have a company that you're employed with and they're thinking about moving you, yes, call me. I can speak to your company. We can explain how it works. I can talk to you. That's great. But if you're just asking about L1s, the first thing you need to do before you come to me is have a company that you work for. Same thing with an H-1B. Have a company that's going to sponsor you. So once you get that company, then yes, I can talk to you and answer your questions, and we can move from there and facilitate how we're going to do an H1, an L1, whatever the work visa is.
Okay, so he's back and he says, thanks, Erin. What are the latest trends for L1A?
Um, Trends, they've been pretty consistent over the past 8 to 10 years. The trending L1As have gotten much harder over the last 8 to 10 years. When we used to do them 20 years ago, it was very simple, very small application. You just put an org chart and you didn't need much more. But now, even an L1A, which, as I mentioned, you just need to be a manager overseeing professionals. Uh, our applications are like this. I mean, because there's been a big shift into attacking these. So we don't just put org charts in. We want to show them that you're overseeing people. We want emails. We want resumes of the professionals you oversee. We want examples of you calling a meeting, making a decision. Maybe you have budgetary authority. So there's no right or wrong, but when we do an L1A, the support letter can be 18 to 25 pages, if you can believe it. Whereas years ago, it was 2 to 3 pages. So they've come a long way with L1As and L1Bs in terms of making you prove it. Really, that's the big trend over the last 8 to 10, maybe 15 years, I'd say.
Okay, great. So thank you so much again, Rag, for posting your questions. If you have more, continue posting them. We will try to take as many as we can. Okay, so I think Skywell is again here, and Skywell says, thank you for answering that. I would like to know if you need a petitioner to acquire the H-1B, and does it only get tied to Silicon Valley companies only? What do you have to say, Erin?
Number one, you do need a petitioner, but it doesn't have to be an IT company or a Silicon Valley company. I'm doing a H-1B for a construction company that needs a project manager, for example. I have another client that's a social working group in New York. They're like social workers, and they're hiring an H-1B. As long as the job requires a 4-year degree. So if you say, well, I want this restaurant to hire me as a waiter, that's not going to work for an H-1B degree. I can tell you I've done an H-1B for an executive chef years ago, which was a tough one because a lot of chefs at that level traditionally don't require a 4-year degree. So we really had to prove that this role did. Not easy. But most occupations that require a 4-year degree, it can be in IT and it can be in accounting, it can be construction, it can be really anything. As long as the role is it's a specialty occupation requiring a 4-year degree within the industry and within the company generally. And you can show that, then you can go ahead and pursue the H-1B category.
Okay, so Skywell, I hope you got your answer. Thank you so much for your question. If you have another follow-up, please continue posting it. And Rag says, thanks, Erin and Rajni. You're most welcome, Rag. And make sure, I'm sure you must have already by now, but if you're not, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. And all of our viewers, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, like the video. And if you think your friends who needs to know the information about H-1B, please do share this episode with them. And let me take Miss K's question. And Miss K says, why would the birthright citizenship EO include work visa and students? Administration asks individuals to do it right away, but I think the executive order would punish H-1B workers. Why would the administration do that? Also, why the uptick in 221G at the embassy? What do you have to? I mean, it's not related to H-1B. So, I mean, if
Okay.
only you would like to answer, Erin.
No, I can answer the first question. The reason why they put out that executive order is because they want this issue to finally go to the Supreme Court. It's not because they want to hurt H-1Bs, people here legally. They want the Supreme Court to decide who should benefit for birthright citizenship. As you know, there's not many countries in the world that have blanket full birthright citizenship that we do. So it's a very novel idea. When it was introduced in the States, the purpose of it was to give freed slaves and their children citizenship at the time, and it served a useful purpose. Since then, there hasn't been much debate about it. It's just always been the law, and it's been abused. I can tell you they've busted Chinese and other rings where they would bring in these rich folks, rich Chinese people. They put them in a very fancy hotel just to have their babies, so the kids could one day, the kids would be citizens and they could come back. And and then they would go back to China, for example. They busted a lot of those rings up. So me personally, I feel, yes, the Supreme Court should take a look at this and decide. And the reason why they worded the executive order that way is because they knew the next day it would be challenged. Okay, they knew that nothing was going to change, and then it will be appealed until it gets to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will eventually have to decide this case. My personal opinion, I think H-1Bs and L-1s and people who come legally should definitely maintain the birthright citizenship. I think that's a good idea. On the other, I don't think anyone who comes illegally should benefit from birthright citizenship. I just think it's just a tool, a wrongful reward for people breaking the law. I don't believe that. Now you might ask, well, what about tourists? Someone who's here not too long, like a B. That's a little bit of a gray area. I'm not sure about that. There's a lot of tourists that come in. There's more Bs that come in than any other category. So do we want to maintain the birthright citizen? That's something that's an interesting question that should be decided. There's a lot of people who feel that birthright citizenship was for a specific purpose and not for the way it's been used for hundreds of years. So we'll see. But to answer your question, Trump wasn't attacking birthright citizenships for Ls or H-1Bs or people here legally. He just knows that it's going to be attacked. So he wants to get the issue out there, and then they want to debate it and have a final decision eventually about it.
Right.
What was the second question?
Also, why the uptick in 221G at the embassy?
I don't know if I can report an uptick. I have a lot of L blankets all over the world. I have a lot of you can imagine the amount of people processing. I don't report an uptick, but if you see an uptick, I don't know. I don't think there's an uptick. I just think, different embassies are harder than other embassies. For example, I do a lot of E2s. This is a little bit off topic, but E2s India doesn't have an E2 treaty, but E1s and E2s are per treaty, and most countries have them. I can tell you, for example, E2s in Canada or other countries are pretty straightforward, whereas if you try to get one in Tokyo, it can be very hard, and they're very strict. So, different consulates have different people working there and different protocols and different ways in which they decide cases, and probably the same thing for 221G. I don't know if there's an uptick now. I haven't seen anything about it.
Okay. Thank you so much for answering the question, Erin and Ms. K. I hope you have got your answer to both your questions. And if you have any more, you can continue posting your follow-ups. Even if the show is over, we will try to, share your question with Erin. We'll try to get an answer from him. But thank you for asking your question. And now, Erin, I would like to move to the Facebook questions that are posted by the people and the viewers in the Facebook group. So, Control, please, if you can share the screen. And yes, so one of the viewer has said, hello, my H-1B extension was approved on January 23rd at the Texas Center. So when can I expect the approval notice?
Yeah, so unfortunately, it can take, we're seeing anything, this is something that has trended downwards. It can take at least a week, 2 weeks before you'll get the approval notice. I assume you looked online based on your receipt notice, or was a premium case and you haven't received the approval yet. Either way, yeah, they can take time. I'm going to say anywhere between 7 to 13 days from when you can see that it was approved. You should have your receipt notices. That's what we're running right now, approximately.
Okay. Let's move to our next question. So the next question that we have is from this anonymous member who says, what is the current processing time for H-1B approval notice to be released for master's court?
So if you're talking about the master's cap lottery, that is done on the same day as the regular lottery or the day after. They used to do that one first. They used to do that one second. Now I believe they're doing that one second. Yes, to give the Masters people a better chance of winning the lottery. They switched that about 2 years ago. I'm not sure the processing time. Processing, you mean just to get an approval notice after being approved, like the last question? It would be the same answer. I don't. This is kind of a vague question.
Okay, maybe let's move on to our next question. So, because not much details are there in this question, so let's move to our next question. So, this anonymous member says, "Hi all, my H-1B transfer has just been submitted to USCIS, but my wife and my son have to travel on family emergency to India. Is it okay for dependents to travel while petition is filed with USCIS?"
Yeah. So H-1B transfer, also known as an H-1B portability, is when a worker finds a new employer who files an H-1B, and they call it an H-1B transfer. Everyone should know that if you wanted to, you could start working when the case is filed for H-1B transfers. You don't have to wait for the approval notice, which is great. Although a lot of employees, they want to wait until the approval is in hand before they jump ship, just to make sure, give them some peace of mind. The question is, yes. So the I-539 H-4 for the wife and son were filed together with the H-1B, and now you need to travel. Well, look, if you have a visa that's still valid and you can travel back in, then I would say you could travel. You're going to need that visa anyway, because you're not coming back without a valid H-4 visa. Sometimes what will happen is when that's filed, they will notice that the person has left the country, and they may cancel the I-539 application. It's possible. So just be wary of that. But if you have to go and you have an H-4 visa to return, you can certainly do that. And in most cases, you should be okay.
Okay. Thank you so much again for answering the question, Erin. I know it's 5 o'clock, but we have completed an hour. But if you have like few more minutes, I would like to take maybe 2, 3 more questions, if you're like.
Yeah, sure. I have time. That's fine.
Thank you so much. Thank
Go
you so
ahead.
much.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our next question. So the next question that we have is, Control, can we please move to, okay. Anonymous member says, hello, I just came to United States on H-1B in the end of December. It was finalized that employer will pay me 180,000 annually. Now he's saying to pay 150,000 USD per annum. So there will be change in petition. Is it an issue or is it normal? Please advise.
Normally, H-1B employers don't lower the salary, but they certainly have the right to. But before they pay you the lower salary, they must submit what's called an H-1B amendment, which tells the government that we're paying less than what we stated on the original H-1B. So it looks like here they're going to file a new petition with an H-1B amendment, and then they will be able to change the terms of the H-1B that you're currently under. If they don't file an H-1B amendment, then you're entitled to the 180,000, which should be noted on the I-129 and in the support letter, and they must pay you that. They cannot pay you less unless they file an H-1B amendment.
Okay. Okay, thank you again for taking that up. Let's quickly move to our next question. So the next question that we have says, hi everyone, sorry, this is not related to H-1B. Last night I had an accident. The person in front stopped in the middle of the road. My insurance expired recently and yet to renew it. Her insurance company called me today and said the blame is on me for everything, but I can dispute it. Please, what should I do, and will it affect my green card application? How can I get a lawyer? Thank you for your help and suggestions. What do you have to say, Erin, to this person?
It won't affect your green card application. This was an accident in the road. Everybody thinks the other person is at fault. If you have an insurance company, you should have an insurance company, car insurance company they're using. I would speak to them and explain to them the situation and see what they say, because they're supposed to represent you in this situation. And then based on whatever their suggestion or their guidance is, you may get a lawyer or not. But I think if you talk to your insurance company, they will tell you what to do. If you don't have insurance, then I would hire a lawyer. You can go online and there's a million lawyers who do personal injury. This is what this is. Just put your city, put personal injury lawyer, and you'll have 100 coming up, and you can call them. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Okay. I think now let's quickly move to our next question. Okay, this is from Yogeshwara, and Yogeshwara says visa process for family. Hello, I'm currently on H-1B and wife is on H-4. We are planning to start the visa process for my parents, sister, and brother-in-law. I have a few questions on the process. Can they, four, mother, father, sister, and brother-in-law, go for the visa interview together or separately? Let's take one by one. What do you have to say about this?
Okay, first of all, you have an H-1B, your wife has an H-4. Your mother, your father, your sister, and brother-in-law are not entitled to any H category visa. So maybe he's referring to them coming to visit on a B visa. That happens a lot. Indians in the U.S. like to bring their parents here, and they come. Sometimes they'll come for up to 6 months at a time. So if you're doing that and they're going to get B visa interviews to visit you, that's perfectly fine. Your mother and father could technically go at the same time. Remember, each person needs to fill out their own DS-160 online and schedule an interview. So I think the mother and father can go together, and the brother-in-law and sister would go together separately, but together. The process for a B visa is the same, whether they're a parent or a brother or a friend who wants to visit you. And what are the documents needed? Well, for the B visa, you want to show that you have ties to, I assume you're from India, you want to show you have ties to the home country. So, maybe you get a letter from your employer. If you have an employer, your last pay statements, bring a bank statement. If you're renting an apartment, bring your last few rental payments, even the contract, the lease of your apartment. If you own a home that you live in, you can bring that. I've counseled clients sometimes to bring a gym membership to show that that's still active. There's a lot of stuff you can bring, but those are the most popular ones. And you have to convince the officer that you're going to the U.S., but you have a life to return to, and that you're not just going to stay in the U.S. forever and ignore your I-94. So, yes, I think he means getting a B. So I answered it in that context.
Okay. All right. Let's move to our next question. I hope Yogeshwara, he got all his answers. Let's quickly move to our next question. So next question says, me and my wife have upcoming travel to India for stamping. We have booked our tickets, but lately we are feeling very anxious to travel, fearing what would happen if 221G is issued, which may take weeks to months to resolve. Having said that, I'm reaching out to understand your experience. If you or your friends have traveled to India or stamping in last 2 weeks, they are talking about this anxiety. They want to know how people are dealing with it. How are you dealing with this anxiety if you are planning to visit for stamping in coming weeks? There is a lot on stake here with the kids' school and mortgage in US, and hence want to understand how is everyone. Okay, so this is more about, I think they just want to hear from other people, but as an immigration attorney and an H-1B visa expert, what would you like to say? I mean, what would you like to tell this person?
So the first thing is when you're going abroad to get your new visa, plan ahead. You obviously want to have the appointment already scheduled while you're in the U.S. and usually schedule it for the beginning of your trip abroad, not the end. So you can have your interview at the beginning, and then you'll get your passport back, and everything will be smooth, and then you can enjoy the rest of your trip. In some categories, you can use the Dropbox. So if you've already had that visa already before, you may be entitled to use the Dropbox where you don't need an interview. Nevertheless, my advice to anyone is if you're traveling abroad and you're going to need a visa to come back and get the stamping, when you're in the U.S. a few months before, secure your interview date already, do your DS-160 and secure your interview date from here, have it all set up, and then plan your trip around that date. That would give you the least amount of anxiety because at least you have it early. Maybe there's a week or two delay. You're still good because you're there for 2 or 3 weeks, but try not to schedule your appointment towards the end of your vacation or your trip because, you got to get your passport back. And sometimes there are delays and they're out of your control.
Right.
That's the best advice I can offer.
Miss K also has an advice to offer to this person, and Miss K says, I don't think the child should be punished for the actions of their parents, but should remove the ability to sponsor that parent for a green card. Let's see. Well, I don't know. But let's move to another question, maybe. If we are left with any, so
that had to do with, I think that was from birthright citizenship, but go ahead.
okay, I think that's it. From the question for the questions from Facebook, but we still have one question which is not related to H-1B. Erin, this RK actually has asked this question, and only if you want to answer this. RK says, "Don't you think the federal government has jurisdiction over undocumented immigrants, given that they can arrest and detain them for deportation?"
Yes, I do. The federal government has jurisdiction over them. If they're here breaking the law, they can certainly arrest them. Coming in illegally is breaking the law, so you can arrest somebody for that if you're here illegally. I just came from the Bahamas 2 days ago, and I went through customs. In this case, it was in the Bahamas. It was pre-clearance. But can you imagine if I just ran through there? What would happen to me? And I'm an American. I would be tackled, number one. I would be held in secondary. I probably would be arrested, just for starters. I don't know when I would get into the U.S. I don't know what would happen. But yeah, so obviously the federal government is charged with overseeing our immigration laws, not the states, the federal government. And they have the power to arrest and to make the laws, obviously, to enforce the laws or not enforce the laws, as we've seen. So yeah, that's a pretty basic question.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much to all the viewers for asking these amazing questions, and thank you so much, Erin, for answering all these questions in so much detail. And we really, really loved your insightful answers. And honestly, I would love for you to come back for another episode. And guys, if you want to get in touch with Erin for a detailed consultation, make sure you give him a call on the number 469-459-1771. I would like to repeat the number 469-459-1771. You can also email him. His email ID is erin@eeglawgroup.com. You can also visit his website, which is www.eeglawgroup.com. So make sure you get in touch with him and his team. And thank you so much, Erin, for being here. Really, really, a great episode. And I really would love for you to come back. So I'll get in touch with you. I'll share an email maybe whenever you are available, so we can do another episode on H-1B or maybe L-1A, right? So
yeah, we could do L-1As for an hour. There's a lot to talk about there. If you have a lot of L-1 folks and listeners, that could be a good one. Green cards are always interesting. Yeah, so thank you for having me. I love talking to you, Rajni. You're a great host. You're very smooth. I think I should see you on the TV here soon. If you're going to go into journalism, you'd be good. You could ask some great questions. So, but yeah, thank you. Yeah, I look forward to any time. I like talking.
Thank you so much, Erin, for your kind words. Really hoping to see you very soon, and we'll decide on the topic. I'm going to frame a topic and share it with you. But for now, thank you so much for being here. And guys, thank you so much for your questions and for joining the session. We'll see you again very, very soon. We have another show coming up, Daily Immigration Dose. So make that you are tuned in on that. But for now, I'll have to take your leave. Make sure that you like this video, share this video, and also subscribe to Immigration Talk Show. I'm Rajni Bharara signing off for now. Take care and bye.